All right, we're halfway there. Try to write as many thoughts as you possibly can. All right. Hopefully you're able to get some thoughts down. Awesome. So we are going to we're going to go into some breakout rooms to talk about what you just wrote about in kind of a smaller group setting. And while you're there, we'll just do, we can do a quick intro. It's only going to be about groups of 3 or 4, so try to keep it relatively quick. Just name, background, what you're working on. And then another thing in the breakout rooms, what are some topics you want to write about in the next few weeks? And then the final thing, if you have time, share some points about what you wrote about in the past 5 minutes. Just gonna put this in the chat real quick before I break this up. So I'll say intros, topics to write about. All right, good to go. We'll be about 10 to 12 minutes. Right.
Hello, everyone.
Good to see you, bro.
Jim, you're in my room. Awesome.
Good stuff. Good to see you so much.
Yeah, very
Alex,
much.
144000.
Evening, guys.
Hey.
Who wants to go first? Maybe reading what you guys wrote.
Okay, I can go first,
Perfect.
I guess. Do you guys remember the first question, though? Because
I think like some introduction, what do you plan to write? And I think something else about network states.
It's in the chat. What interests you about network states? I have a protocol. I've had a protocol for network state, and I've been running around the world because of the political situation in the U.S. And also trying to figure out how to build it, and it's extremely important for humanity, and it needs to be built. That's what interests me about network states. And then the second question was, what do you think is important process for a network state to make in the coming years? I need to explain the vision clearly. I need to enable a community for social proof. We need a great organization to start building the protocol. Once people see what I present, I hope that there will be a sea of change in the right direction. I hope everything just aligns and people stop wondering about what a network state is, that it becomes clear and that people have the faith to build it. My greatest joy would be to see it built such pretty quickly. That's it. That's all I got.
Super.
Next.
I'll go next. I'll go next to that. So that's all right. I didn't get a chance to give an intro earlier. So basically, hi guys. I'm Alex. I've been in the network state space for several years now. I'm a member of about 3 or 4. So I'm a member of Praxis, Metropolitan, and Netana, and just been paying close attention to sort of like the dynamics of network states and how sort of like they are being brought to fruition in all different forms and shapes. So my interest in network states is sort of like it has both a tangible aspect, a personal tangible aspect, and then an impersonal sort of like more theoretical aspect. On the personal front, it's the potential to resolve those of political issues with potentially new governance models and new forms of human organization from first principles, embedding technology, and a whole bunch of the tools that we have on hand. And then on the more intangible side of things, just more looking at things from the perspective of civilizations and the dynamics of them, how they transition, how they flow across time, and the life cycles and so on. And I tend to believe that that sort of like the phase that we're in right now, that network states coming up as this element is very much apt to be a potential transition to a next phase of human civilization. So in that vein, so things that would be nice for us network states to have would be to do more concrete community building. So like making these communities more defined and more well-bounded, and making them solid. Also facing new vectors, protocols for economic economic linking, economic interdependency. In terms of more interest or things I would have. So yeah, so follow ground for new economic and political models, the dynamics of civilization, new governance models, and yeah, that's more or less about it.
Thank you. You want to go, Jim?
Sure. So hi, I'm Jim. So I been interested in network society space for a while. Was a part of the 1729 group that helped Balaji beta test his book. Was a member of the first cohort of network school, and was with the TNS camp with Anton. I remember Anton, you and I had this discussion about what is a network state, and Anton is really brilliant, very smart, a lot of insights. We were in Patrick Friedman's house. I remember like discussing this very late at night, and what was really interesting was how we all have different ideas of what a network state is, and it's kind of like a crypto where you have the Bitcoiners, the ETH heads, the Solana folks, and the shitcoins and the meme coins as well, where it's a big space, and we have a big diversity of folks, innovators, builders, thinkers, etc. And that's what makes it really exciting. For me personally, 2 fronts. One, hoping for a more peaceful world. I think it's something that Lorenzo has mentioned as well, where our world currently is driven by nation states that are motivated by game theory, great power games, etc. Where if we have more organic, network-driven Linux options, that could drive more peace, prosperity, and safety for us and our future generations. And which is the second motivation is more around multi-generational the multi-generation aspect that Steve also mentioned, a better world for our, not just ourselves, but also our children and our children's children. In terms of coming years, one thing I like to see is this movement going beyond the crypto tech digital nomads to reach more grassroots. For example, if a rickshaw driver in Cambodia were to start talking about network societies, that's an indication that it's become a lot more mainstream. It's kind of like with Bitcoin. It started with the tech communities. It started with libertarian communities, but then fast forward some years later, you have taxi drivers in Africa or Southeast Asia even talking about how excited they are about Bitcoin. And when you become a threat to democracy, when you become accused of being a threat to democracy, when you become big enough where the taxi driver will rave about it, that's when you know that it's become mainstream and it's too big to kill at that point.
Thank you. And I'll go on. What interests me about network states is super talented and ambitious people that I get to be with every single day. Physical locations that we're building that are actually quite luxury or not so quite luxury, beauty. The parallel economy that is being developed as we speak, parallel identification system, parallel transportation solutions, creative collaboration and products exchange solutions, new regenerative culture establishment, kind of beyond that idea of climate change, new governance experiments, of course, and independence reached soon enough before I create children. Okay, so then what really I think is important process in the upcoming years, meet and learn from each other, was what we're doing now, exchange knowledge and share visions, weave these visions together, create hubs and physical bases for us so we can converge and coordinate. Hubs that maybe pop up, but also I'm interested in more permanent ones that are more secret oriented so that we can create robust technology solutions to be shared between all these network states initiatives and become untraceable by the tech players that are kind of taking over the market and giving the data to the governments right now. Attract some substantial funding for independent researchers and active network members to keep this movement going without the corporate involvement or with aligned involvement, rather, with partnerships. Create and align our goals and missions for engaging and transparent media that educates and informs and invites aligned greater public into this movement. That's it. Thank you. Okay, we have discussion now.
That's
Jim.
a great list.
Thank
That's
you.
a great list. Love it.
I love what you're doing in this space. I'm really, really impressed by the people that are gathering today. Really great work. Showing up is 100% of action actually needed.
Likewise, just even with the four of us here, it's just I'm so looking forward to learning from everyone and your ideas. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I look forward to making my writing better. I feel like I have some really important content that is, but I'm not a writer by profession. Like I've had a blog for a little bit, but I never really. Are any of you guys professional writers, or have you been like professional writers?
Nope, just channeling
Yeah.
the collective.
It's always a work in progress with all of us. Yeah.
Indeed, though I'm trying to sort of like embark on basically trying to couch all these ideas into like more of a easily digestible format. So like in the realm of fiction, novel fiction. So it's like, can we sort of like put these ideas in in sci-fi or in something like that that'll make it easy for people to understand, that would go out and reach the culture more and more.
It's a good point. I think we have about 20 seconds left.
Yeah, let's write. Let's converge in paper and publishing.
Look forward to talking more in the Discord.
Look forward.
Nice to meet you all.
Likewise.
Hey, welcome back.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, do you want to take it from here?
Let's see, are you sharing the deck? I need to look at the deck to know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, let me share it.
Oh, this is logistics?
Well, if we want to do a quick debrief of the breakout rooms, if we have a little time for that.
Yeah, we do that for a few more minutes, maybe till 52, something like that.
Yeah.
So what's the prompt here, Grant? Like anybody who just has comments from the breakout rooms to speak up if they want to?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we can take a few minutes just kind of summarizing the breakout rooms. If anyone wants to come off mute and just share something interesting they learned from someone else or someone who has a good response to what excites them most about network states.
I'll just quickly start by saying I was stoked. I was in with Jeanette and she was talking about all of these ideas she had that came from network school. And I'm just so excited to hear from people who are at the network school because I think that's the beginning of a very, very important in-person lineage. And so I hope to learn more about what went on there from the people who are with us.
Yeah, I think learning is definitely a big point. Even with the breakout rooms, it's just so amazing to see so many passionate, intelligent, and articulate folks, and very stoked to kind of learn from everybody. And part of the value for this, and thank you again, Grant, Matt, and Cam for organizing, is that it really helps the movement if we have a movement of ideas. It's not so much about what any one individual writes, but the collection of ideas and the intermixing, colliding of ideas sends sparks in which the sum it becomes a bigger than the sum of the individual parts. And as with any movement, we need a constant movement of these ideas to push the energy, passion, and innovation forward.
Yeah. So our with the group, our conversation is about actually democratizing and helping the industries out or governance systems out, and democratizing and decentralizing it is the huge thing for our conversation. And for example, I said I am a believer of privacy, freedom, and free will. And this is promoting those ideas and backed by these technologies which promote us and securing. And also there is the idea which Grace is doing in our group is the democratizing the hello route, for example, art, right? And art people, and making them decentralized and democratize them. And also, and the same technologies we are using already, all we know, decentralized finance systems, and we don't need any more, the centralized institution, right? And those are our topics. What is interesting us and network states, and what will be in the future, what I'm expecting actually, and also what these technologies is fundamentally is. I don't believe anyone here would be disagree with me about privacy, freedom, and free will. So yeah, that was a good talking with the team. And already interesting, and I love it already. Is anyone wants to share idea?
Matt, did you want to? I can just go. Okay, so I think the question I'm asking myself, right, I see this is there seem to be two kind of paths, right? When you have technologies like Bitcoin or technologies like Library Genesis, Sci-Hub, right? Like these are kind of decentralizing things that kind of affect the world everywhere. And it kind of reminds me of the ideas in the French Revolution, where you basically had a progressive spread of these ideas from France to Germany to Russia and so on. But yet at the same time, we see like those are not really contained to any one sort of thing. It's like this amorphous blob that moves everywhere worldwide, and to some extent, we still do see that today. So I wonder if the network state ideology is something like that, or if it's going to be. I think it's a little bit of both. I think you have people building their own communities, and but is it going to actually be able to succeed from the nation state, or will they be very unhappy with that? And they have many ways to coordinate to make sure that doesn't happen. Or are network states more so these small kind of independent countries behind third powers, like El Salvador? So I think these are kind of the three directions I see it going.
Well, I can't wait to read that essay. Yeah, let's get one more comment and then we'll move on to logistics. Go ahead, Lorenzo.
I think what Taiwan actually mentioned is interesting, and Matt, we spoke about this on the private Discord. What we were talking about actually last week on Friday, we had our first political philosophy study session, and so what I've done, and Jim actually joined us last week, and what we've done is we're starting 35 great works of antiquity until modern day. And the whole idea is to follow in the footsteps of the founding fathers, in the sense that when they created the United States of America, when they drafted the Declaration, when they essentially built the nation, they went into the foundations of every single society. And so the whole point of this study session is to have a really good understanding of the foundations. It doesn't matter if it came from ancient Greece to France. Actually, those 35 books were recommended by Professor Harvey Mansfield, who is sitting at the chair, I believe, still at Harvard for about 50 years, and he compiled an amazing list, really a truly amazing list of the great works of political philosophy. And so, if you guys would like to join on Friday, we do a study session. We actually began with the history of the Peloponnesian War, and why is this relevant? Because in terms of writing for this writing cohort, it's actually super important to write about certain theses or maybe ideas from these study sessions, right? So it could be, the history of the Peloponnesian War had some amazing ideas just on immigration and economic prosperity and the consolidation of power. And, we just bounced a lot of ideas. And so one of the things that I wanted to join this cohort as well is to take the learnings that we have done and consolidate them into really strong ideas and really exploring all the philosophers, all the political philosophers that we've had. So, that's what I wanted to say.
Speak my language, man. Make sure that you put the notifications for those calls in the chat, in the Discord, so we all see those. I think you're thinking along excellent lines for this, going backward to learn more about what we're going to do. So we have 5 minutes left. We have some logistics to get into. Maybe, Grant, let's jump into that. Okay. The way we're going to do the course, I'm going to go really fast here at the end because we're going to try and end at the hour mark, and then we'll stick around for anybody who has Q&A and wants to chat, but I'll try and wrap up in the next 5. You'll have access to what you see on the screen here on the Discord. Just go to the forum for key links, and you'll see this writer schedule. But what it is it goes in 2-week schedules. We made 2 cycles of this. The first week is we have this call, and then tomorrow, publish however many you want. Just has your topic and your bullet summary on Discord. So that way we know that you've decided what you want to do, right? Publish that on the Discord, and then Monday, submit your piece by Monday night. This will just be a draft. Make it as good a draft as you can, because if you turn in a bad draft, you will not get any helpful feedback, because everybody's feedback will be you know, you have 50 grammatical errors and, you know, like it just sort of is not, it just doesn't have chops. So make it as complete as you can. Make it something that you're proud of and submit that on Discord by midnight Monday. Then next week, when we have our call, we're going to be reviewing those pieces. When we get into our small groups, we'll be reviewing those pieces, giving feedback, getting to know each other a little bit better there. And then you have the rest of that week to put those changes in and then publish it on your own publishing platform. That can be your Substack, Medium, you know, whatever it is that you like to publish on, you publish it on your own thing, and then we'll gather them together and I'll show you that. But these are the two different weekly cycles. And after we finish the second one, we repeat. Let's keep going, Grant. And if you're ever lost, like just go to the channel and ask questions and everybody will be hanging out there. Publishing, so like I said, you go publish yourself on whatever your channel is. We'll collect everything on nsconnect.xyz/media. And so what you see here on the left, this is the Network State Connect website. And what is populated with right now are all the previous pieces from the writers cohorts, the previous writers cohorts. And so this will be our first time adding pieces to it. It has an RSS feed that people can follow, which is cool. So if people want to learn like what are Network State writers writing about, they can follow that feed. And we can follow your feed. So that's something that we're going to be figuring out is like, you know, your Substacks, your Mediums, whatever your feed is, we can just follow your feed and it'll auto enter into this media feed. So it's a pretty cool thing. And we can build functionality upon request. If people want to be able to comment on stuff, if people want to be able to like or comment or play with this stuff, if it gets traction, then we can build those features in. Let's keep going, Grant. Thank you. This is the last slide. So something very exciting is there's an AI writing tool called Symbolic.ai that was built by John Stokes, who was the first community manager for 1729 and a former CEO of eBay. And it might still be out in beta. It might be, you know, fully released. I'm not sure, but they've given us a group account to use it if we want. I got a demo of it, and it is the most rigorous, amazing AI writing tool I've ever seen, for sure. Like you load it full of information, it learns your voice, you tell it what you want to write about, it can help you structure that, it helps you with fact checking. You'll like write a piece, and then you're like, dude, find me like examples of how this works, find me like proof of this, or if I made a claim, but you can't find the backed up claim, you know, so it like looks for things that you got wrong. So it's really thought through how to do this. John Stokes is going to personally give us a demo this same time next Thursday, okay? And that's when we're going to be onboarding everybody onto Symbolic.ai. It's not obligatory to use this, but it is an option for you. Come next Thursday at this time in 2 days if you can, if you want to be there for the demo. If you cannot be there, that's no problem at all. It will be recorded and you'll have access to it. But I do recommend either coming to the training session or watching the video because it's a pretty complex piece of software and you're going to want to have that capability. And all this is going to be in the Discord. So we're at the hour now, so I'll turn it back to you, Grant. And before we end, we have to get a good picture of everybody. So anybody who is has their camera off, if you want to be in the picture, turn it on. Anybody who's on but wants to be on, turn it off. And we're going to get a screen share here in just a second. Who wants to grab it? Cam, can you grab it?
Yeah, sure. Can Grant stop the sharing the screen so I can get the full view?
And there's a tab on the top left. Okay.
3,
Ready?
2, 1, now. I'll take a couple. Oh,
Let's get
okay.
hands up, guys. Let's look stoked.
Yeah.
All right.
Sure. Done.
Amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you everyone for coming. Matt, just a double review of the logistics, just a reminder for everyone. So yeah, Tuesday was today, meet, discuss the writing topic. Wednesday, you're gonna share your topic and some bullet points in the Discord. And then next Monday, you'll submit the piece on Discord by midnight, and so then week 2, Tuesday, same exact time, we'll come here, review these pieces that we spent the week drafting, and then you'll have that entire week to publish again on any platform that you want. All right, and then we start the process again. Just wanted to double review that. But awesome, thank you everyone so much for coming. This has been a blast. Matt, Cam, and I will stay after if you have any questions or want to talk logistics. But we'll see you Thursday, and if not on Thursday, next Tuesday at the same time. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, everyone. Talk
Yeah,
soon.
you too. Dude, it's crazy because I know like half of this room now, right? It's like, oh, that's a network state camp guy, and that's a 1729er, and you know, it's just like, it's weird how it snowballs. So anybody who has a question, feel free to throw it out there.
Yeah.
What do you guys use for?
Yeah, go ahead.
What do you guys use for writing tools?
Honestly, like just to answer it myself, like I never used writing tools before. Like when we did most of these, like AI was not very sophisticated. This is our first cohort where AI has gotten a lot better. We tried to use it before, but it was like so obviously, you know, computer generated that it was mostly a distraction. And so I personally just write on Substack and that's it. But I will be utilizing Symbolic because my belief about Symbolic is, and this is something I understand better about AI tools now, is if you're willing to spend the time to tune it properly, whether that's like 10 or 12 hours or something, to really figure out the tool and get it to do what you want, then you'll be able to produce more work and better work. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been looking at different tools like, for example, Grammarly, which seems really like super invasive to your privacy. It keystrokes everything that you write on like your computer basically, but it also seems pretty powerful with the AI.
You can drop a completed doc into Grammarly. You can just drop it right in and have it look at it. So you don't have to have the app or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a question around like what, like in terms of the topics, is there an outline, like what are people writing about, or is this completely up to us? Go wild with what we want to write.
Want to take that, Matt?
Yeah, I would say like basically the broadest umbrella I think of when I think of network states is techno-optimism. You know, it's just, I don't know if you read Techno-Optimist Manifesto by Mark Andreessen, but it's just the whole idea of like a positive vision of the future. That's my personal take on network states is like, we're going to use technology to make things way cooler and it'll be at a societal level. So that's my personal way of looking at it. If you want like food for thought of what's gone on in the past, go to the link in our Discord that we have there. There's the Key Links forum in our Discord next to writers. You'll go to nsconnect.xyz/media, and there's going to be 100 essays there, and that'll show you like just a total plethora of topics that have been covered in the past, and that'll give you some ideas.
Yeah, I think that's helpful. What channel did you mention on the Discord server?
Okay, so I'm going to look at it. Let me make sure you can see it too, by the way, because I just added it before the call. If you go to the server and then you go to the writers section, do you see something called writers key info?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, click on that and then go to key links.
Got it.
I'll probably use better language in the future. I just wanted to put it there. So yeah, you'll see it there. And that's publishing site. Yeah.
Got it. All right. Thanks for this, guys. See you.
Final thought, Gagan, whatever makes sense to you, man. You get the vibe. Write whatever you want.
Yeah, makes sense. See you.
It's so good to hang out with you guys, with everyone here.
Burke, I didn't recognize you with the sunglasses or the computer or the blue light blockers, man. What's
Very
up?
badass.
It's been like 2 years.
How's it going? Yeah, it's here, there we go. Maybe that looks a little more like me now. Yeah, no, it's great to see everyone here.
How are things in El Salvador these days?
Well, yeah, I mean, one big piece of news recently is Tether is moving here to El Salvador, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, I mean that's one thing going on. There's always some cool events going on. I've lived a lot in Latin America, but El Salvador is definitely less developed than other places I've lived in Latin America. So sometimes there's challenges here and there, but it's definitely I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like in December, I think, I don't know if they finished the whole month, but as of December 29th, they had 0 homicides in December here, which, was it 10 years ago, was one of the most dangerous countries in the world. So, I'm pretty clear-eyed. Not everything's here is perfect, that's for sure. But it's a very, I think it's an interesting place where, I mean, obviously there's a lot of Bitcoiners, but there's other, I mean, knowing that there's interest might make me more likely to write about that. I have some other ideas that I put together at Network School, but yeah, I do have like the network state, but then there's like certain interesting things going on, and then I definitely have thoughts on, what will or won't make things work here. So I'm open to it. I think the thoughts I have sort of so far kind of clear is like 5 factors that I think will determine how things go for El Salvador in the future. And then, yeah, a lot of ideas that I have related to network states in general that I could write about. So, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be great just to read about your reflections. It could even be, again, a stream of consciousness, what you see, what you observe. Would be great food for thought. Thank you for sharing.
I would say as an American, my curiosity is like we're noticing in the hemisphere, Bukele, Malay, like these major disruptions in these Latin American countries. And like, is that going to create something new in the hemisphere? Like, is this new type of leader going to create something new? And will that have something to do with, network states? Like, could it be that they attract special economic zones and they actually push things forward? I'd be curious about where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, there is someone that I'm working with here who wants to do kind of like a next level stem cell clinic, and I'm trying to get them to do something similar to what they did in Prospera, but that's still like very initial stages. So yeah, no, I hear you with that for sure. I mean, I guess what I've noticed is I was just back in Colombia for 3 months before I came to El Salvador, and there's a lot of interest from people in other parts of Latin America about how safe Bukele made it here. There's not so much interest in the whole like, oh, we need to adopt Bitcoin or cryptocurrency as a currency. But I would say like with Milei, people are very interested in, how he reduced inflation within other places in Latin America. And then with Bukele, they're very interested in how he made things so safe. So, I mean, those are not exactly network state topics, but I guess they're improvements in governance. And yeah, like one of the things I've thought about is, whatever the US's biggest problem is, whether it's the debt or obesity or lack of innovation, if you told me like, oh yeah, we could just totally fix that in 5 years, I'd be like, no way. But whereas with El Salvador, like their biggest problem was safety, and they've totally fixed that in 5 years. And so that's something that I find interesting. So,
do you see long-term potential flipping between the global north and the global south? With for example, with innovations you talk about, we reflect upon it in Latin America, in terms of the population dynamics, it's going to be Southeast Asia, Africa, Indian subcontinent that is going to be more predominant, right, in even in our lifetime. Is there going to be a flipping where most of the global north countries, the majority of them, you're looking at a median age of over 40. I think Japan, Korea, some of the worst in terms of the median age. Whether it's United States, Canada, Western Europe, China, Japan, South Korea, these more developed global north countries are seeing either declining populations or increasing restrictions on immigration or so forth. And then we're seeing population surpluses in places like, again, Africa, Indian subcontinent. We know India's up and coming, Southeast Asia, and then we hear about these innovations coming in Latin America. Could there be a eventual flipping of the North and South? Whereas the historical analogy would be, in a couple hundred years ago, you had Europe, which was the old world, which was kind of just fighting. You got Austria-Hungary, England, France, Spain, etc., or fighting against each other. It kind of gave the new world, right? The Americas, the time. It became like an east-west flipping in the last couple hundred years, where things flipped from the old world into the Western hemisphere, the new world, in terms of where the predominant economics, population growth, and dynamics were. Could this be a beginning of a reshaping, reflipping of instead of east-west, instead of east versus west, or old world versus new world, north and south, where we see a lot more innovation coming in from the global south or from Latin America, from the south, as opposed to the north?
Yeah, I mean, I guess like in terms of economics, or in general, I should say, I've lived in Latin America. I can't really speak to Africa. I do actually think that's going to be a pretty big challenge for Latin America, where I've heard Bukele saying he'd like to be the Singapore of Latin America, but from my understanding of Singapore and the culture, there's a lot of like obsession with being great at engineering. That's not really something that I have seen in Latin America in the 10 years that I've lived in different places in Latin America. I mean, that could change, but that would be figuring out how to make that change, I think, might be difficult. Yeah, I mean, population, maybe. I think there might be a little bit of, some of the more like socially woke sort of things. I think Latin America was a lot more resistant in not doing that than like Western Europe and the US and Canada was. So I think in that sense, the US might start to become a little bit more like Latin America as people decide they're not into that, or not, who knows.
There's a convergence. There's almost a convergence.
So maybe like a little bit of the cultural stuff, sure, but the economic stuff and the technology stuff, I don't know. That might be a little hard. I think maybe what you could see happen would be, I think El Salvador could do something like set up better regulations for like foreign companies to move here and do cool things. But whether that's sort of like an organic thing that people here start doing it, I think that might be more difficult.
Because sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say real quick, because I lived in Latin America for 5 years in Costa Rica, and I've been going down there for 20 and spending a lot of time, and like went all over Central America. And yeah, my feeling is their governments are so broken that unless you have some kind of an enormous governmental reform movement that somehow re-incentivizes entrepreneurship, you're never going to get some kind of a major growth. That's my prediction.
Matt, you made an interesting question earlier about what other places or countries that may look at Bukele and say, oh, we want to do that. And you got Milei in Argentina, which is bigger. Milei's success in Argentina arguably would be much more significant because Argentina is a much bigger country. It's got bigger population, bigger surplus, bigger dynamic. If we compare Argentina, right, in the year 1900, to the United States, where Argentina was one of the top 10 in global GDP, per capita GDP, and everything, it only took less than a lifetime for Argentina to really fall. And then if you look at two examples, one Argentina in terms of a country with significant critical mass to kind of fall within a lifetime, and then we look at places like Singapore, South Korea. Within one lifetime, remember looking at pictures of Singapore and South Korea in the 50s, 60s, it was pretty much looking at shacks and everything, and within one lifetime, it becomes one of the most technologically advanced places in the world. And we do have a Singaporean here. Want to defer to that as well. But the analogy would be going back to the north-south flippening hypothesis. If things go well in Argentina, John Hansen, he's running I'll put a plug for him. He's running the first ever pop-up city in Brazil, in Florianopolis, starting end of April to end of May for 1 month in Florianopolis. There are a lot of Brazilians who are looking to kind of innovate and copy what Milei is doing in Argentina. They're fed up with Lula. Understandably, there's a lot of divisions there in Brazil, but Brazil is the one place where, in terms of critical mass, has the potential and everything to rival the global north in terms of resources, in terms of self-sufficiency, in terms of industry, in terms of the human capital surplus. If Brazil decides to say, oh, look at, because Brazil and Argentina has a big rivalry. They all from soccer, right? And Maradona, Pelé. I almost got thrown off a building once in Brazil when I was working there because I said Maradona is better than Pelé, and then they tried to throw me off a building because of that. True story. Brazil looks at Argentina and looks at, okay, these guys are innovating. Argentina looks at Bukele and says, we want to do what Bukele is doing, and then Brazil, a couple years down the line, looks at Argentina and said, we want to do what Argentina is doing because we cannot let our neighbors in the south beat us. Uruguay looks at it as the same thing, maybe tries to do it, but Uruguay doesn't have enough critical mass. But when Brazil wakes up, if we have in Brazil, then
I feel
critical mass.
I don't know if there's other people that want to say stuff too. I don't want to have the whole conversation be about El Salvador, but I guess one area I could see where there might be a flippening would be better regulations. So, for example, there is, in El Salvador, there are different health laws in progress here that are related to medical freedom and whatnot. And then next door in Honduras with Prospera, they've been able to launch pharmaceuticals for a much lower price than you can in the U.S. So I could see a situation where better regulatory climates essentially bring a lot of the innovative companies to some of these smaller countries. But yeah, what Jim said about and obviously there's some of this in the U.S. too, but that culture of we're going to throw you off of a building because you said one soccer player is better than the other. That's not, that doesn't speak really highly of a society that's going to start doing massive innovations on their own.
It only takes within one's lifetime. The Brazil, Argentina, Chile, all these countries were military dictatorships, right? Just very few decades ago, and they've already transformed themselves relative to what was happening before. And there's arguably it could be within one's lifetime in terms of what transformations could be. Could we see potentially within the Western Hemisphere, going back to what Matt mentioned, a rivalry between Brazil and the U.S. Because nowadays everyone's talking about U.S.-China, right? East versus West. That's current, but in the long-term future, if we talk about spheres of influence, from my time living in Brazil, I don't get the feeling that Brazilians like the fact that their hemisphere is being dominated by the North. And if there's enough of innovation that happens, and Brazilians get jealous enough of Argentina, and they say, if Maradona can do it, Pelé can do it as well.
Sure.
Brazil is the one place that has the critical mass, dynamic population, resource self-sufficiency, everything to rival the North.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a very network state conversation, because it's like the thing that would allow that to happen is governance innovation, right? That's what's holding all of them back, is their governments are super clogged with red tape, and they don't incentivize just lawful entrepreneurial behavior. You know what I mean? So it's and that kind of innovation, that's what I mean when I look at Bukele and I look at Milei, is wow, they're showing that you can make heavy reforms, and we'll have to see what comes from that. But to not dwell too much on Latin America, I'm curious if anybody else wants to bring up any other topics. I'm curious, Lorenzo, also how that conversation went the other day about the Peloponnesian War, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, Jim was actually there as well. Can I share my screen? Is that possible?
That'd be great.
Yeah, I think you should have access. Is it not giving you the option?
Well, I just wanna, let me check. Yeah, it says disabled.
Oh wait. Here. I'm gonna make you host. All right, you should be able to now.
So, yeah. So, okay. Let me just do this right here. So this is what I was mentioning about this reading list. Okay, so the way the professor Harvey Mansfield actually categorized everything, he mentions about like how actually in antiquity you have the origin of natural right, right? And so this is kind of like the beginning where we're going to talk about Plato, Socrates as well, Thucydides specifically. And as you see, like in this list, I mean, you have like the political animal, godly politics, the perpetual republic, systems, etc. And so what we wanted to do is begin with the history of the Peloponnesian War. I think something that is very interesting with this is that it's known as the book that describes wars for eternity, right? And so I thought that was very relevant, especially with what's going on. I mean, I'm sure everyone knows what's going on here in the Middle East. So, but it's not only here, right? This is a worldwide phenomenon. This has been the history of mankind. And so, what better way to actually dig into this than Thucydides himself? So, just to share with you guys, the way I'm organizing this is there's going to be like a nice author background just before it, obviously you guys could have access to this and you guys could add notes. It could be videos, research, articles, whatever it could be. But the idea is that we'll go ahead and break it down by chapter. And what we had last week was a very interesting conversation that I didn't even realize, by the way, because I'm also learning in the process. It's not like I'm doing this because I know, like, there's so much to learn. But it's crazy how something that was written so long ago could still be relevant in our days, right? And I think one of the things that was really interesting that we could highlight is that the consolidation of power with economics, right? And so what we saw with Thucydides, even before he talks about the causes of the war and Athens versus Sparta, is that actually business and a thriving economy was actually a very strong role in consolidating power and having influence and whatnot. And I think that what's relevant with the network state specifically is that one of the great things that Balaji is saying is that first you start with the cloud, right? You're able to create communities, you're able to create an economy, business across the world, that doesn't matter the actual network state that you're building, but if you're able to have these individuals working together and building an economy, this is a very strong step to the future of the network state, which is at the end, what Balaji mentioned in the network state is to have diplomatic recognition. And I think we see a huge precedent inside of the history of the Peloponnesian War, and this is only in the first chapter. Jim, I know you were part of the conversation. Friday, if you want to say something, please feel free.
Again, thanks again, Lorenzo, for organizing. It's pretty interesting. Matt Operator, Wes was also there. He had some very interesting insights as well. Just to build on what Lorenzo was saying, there are tremendous parallels between what happened during the Peloponnesian War versus what is happening today. The tragedies in the Middle East, particularly. I know, Lorenzo, it's very much in your mind. I can echo with that. It's thank goodness that there's a ceasefire now. That's kind of hopefully at least put on pause within the whole region. It's been for centuries and decades. And I think one of the things to the Peloponnesian War was that when you have two seemingly opposing forces, sides, Athens and Sparta, that kind of engage in extended conflict, it usually brings mutual exhaustion, and it allows a third party power to kind of step in and sweep in. I mean, the result of the Peloponnesian War was the rise of Corinth and the rise of Macedonia, and the eventual Alexander the Great, Philip and Alexander the Great. And arguably within the Middle East, you kind of seen Turkey stepping up its ambitions. And Turkey is making a lot of inroads in the north, and could Turkey arguably take initiative and take advantage of the situation? Is to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, one thing that we mentioned is the power of poetry, epics. I mean, it's interesting how, Thucydides himself is known as he is the scientific historian, right? He is the model of history and how it should be written. And it was interesting how he actually quoted the Iliad by Homer, right? And I think in today's society, it would be shunned to be able to take a poem or an epic as a source of inspiration to explain a political phenomena. And that's exactly what he did, which was so interesting, and how he weaved Agamemnon's power to illustrate his wealth, influence, the armada that he had in order to go with Troy. But I think it's a nice way. First of all, Thucydides is teaching us how to think, right? He's teaching us how to write, and what better way to bring this about for this cohort, right? And so I'm not going to take too much time, but basically the idea is that if you guys are interested in learning Friday, I mean, we only did chapter 1, and then it was an amazing session that we had. It was only 3 of us, and there's so much to learn, and I'm really excited to be sharing this with you guys.
Grant, do you have Notion envy when you see Lorenzo's prowess?
Yeah, that was nice. No, it's really exciting, and it's cool to have writing as kind of like the backdrop to what you're doing, because like I always feel that I do a lot of reading and just like consuming, which is obviously important, but like taking the time to put it in writing clarifies it a lot. So I'm excited to see where it comes.
Yeah, so it's like why I love Notion is like we could collaborate. If you saw something on the internet, like an article, an essay, a video, you could put it there, and we could like discuss it, obviously, and use it as a resource. So that's yeah. Do you like Notion? Are you like a huge fan?
Yeah, I'm a big Notion guy. Very big.
We used to run cohorts on these like insanely complex Notion sheets that Grant would make, where it was just like every link goes into some massive page that you interact with. It's like hooked up to Zapier. But yours looked great, Lorenzo, too, man. I'm impressed. And please keep us up on that. The current time you had running it, you and I talked about the same thing. The time he's running it is a little early for me Mountain Time. I think it's like 6 or 7. I have some things I'm doing in the morning. But yeah, if it's ever a little bit later, I'll try and hit it up. But certainly don't try and move it on our accounts.
For sure.
Super. Hey.
Yeah.
Just real quick, Lorenzo, before we move on this, but you've been in 1729, right? How did you get in there? Because like you're showing up with this writing thing, but I don't remember us interacting before.
So I was here. Maybe I could share my screen again, just to give you. So here, let me show my screen. I mean, I was more on the observing side, I guess you could say, inside of the Discord. I think you could see inside of, if you will it. So I was a part of the sessions like a really long time ago. I think that, this was like December 28th. I was already, listening to Balaji's courses. I don't even know what platform it was called. It was like this VR thing, right? You guys were there as well, right? Yeah.
It was a custom build from a Mozilla guy that was working for Balaji at the time.
Right. So I remember joining those courses. I mean, I joined. I don't even know if I have those POAPs anymore. I need to find my MetaMask wallet or whatever. But I remember joining those sessions, and I was waking up pretty early as well because Balaji's was, teaching that very early on my time. And what happened was that there was a meetup in Tel Aviv with 2 individuals. I tried to keep in touch with them. I don't know if they're still, active in the group, but we basically met in front of David Ben-Gurion's apartment and also his statue in the beach of Tel Aviv. This is already 2021, which is actually crazy to think about. This is 4 years ago. But yeah, I mean, like I was more on the.
Keep sharing. Go back and keep talking, but scroll see if you can scroll up and find, because I was at the very first Austin meetup with John Stokes, who's talking on Thursday. I want to see if you can just find it, because this is just the general meetups, right?
I think
I've been back here forever.
oh,
There's
here.
me. I'm near
Yeah.
LA. But this, so it was before that. This would have been November. Keep going up. Got to meet that dude. Keep going. There's John. Keep going. Keep going. Huh. Oh, we probably did a subthread. We probably did like an Austin subthread.
Yeah.
Or November. But yeah. Anyway, that was super fun doing that with John. We had barbecue.
Really? That's awesome.
It was me, him, Firecat, if you remember Firecat, and one other dude who was, they were all active in the old days. Austin had like a nice contingent. Don't mean to derail us. I was hoping it was like right up above. So anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, I think ever since I heard about the network state and 1729, I was like, this is gonna change everything, you know, like, and we need to do something about it, you know, so, yeah.
Amen.
Is anyone working on an open source for the network state by any chance?
What do you mean, like an open source, like a software project?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Was it Jeanette? You were talking about doing a network, right? That's network state related. You'd say?
I'm doing something more like more for residential. So I think the only difference is that in the network school is you meet online, cloud first and then LAN last, but never LAN. Okay, never mind. Yeah, cloud first and LAN last. For me, it is more of making use of existing community in a neighborhood, and then just through our platform where neighbors get to share services and experiences together, that they can make new connections. Because what we have now is a very like individualized, pigeonholed kind of like living situation where you go into a building that where you live and you don't know anyone else around you, and you don't make use of the facilities or amenities that is available in your building to really that there's so much resources to be made where you're at, or at least in Singapore or across Southeast Asia, which is what I'm seeing. So imagine where in a building where you're able to connect with your neighbors and then come together, have a yoga session together, and on a regular basis, and it's kind of like a bit drawing some reference and inspiration from what we had in the network school, where 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. there's always fitness sessions where there's routine accountability. We are always showing up. There's a goal to what we're doing. We want to like lose weight, or we want to have a healthy living, or like longevity, and all these things, right? So we want to build that into residential estates. So it's slightly different, but really a lot of references that we're trying to make from the network school, and tapping on the existing communities that we have in Singapore, as well as I think the next stop would be either Johor, just because of where network school used to be, and also Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of an operating system that, like what Balaji was talking about, like a government operating system, we haven't really seen anything like that. I think Balaji has kind of mentioned something about Estonian system, as well as the Singapore SingPass. So it's like we have like a digital ID where you could just log in through that system. You can log into a lot of things that are essential to you, like your bank account, or your tax payment, or basically you have your ID on your phone, right? So and I think that's the closest to what maybe Balaji has in mind.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see what other network states are looking to build as well.
I see Eric actually share something. Yeah, go ahead, Jim. Sorry.
Eric, do you want to go? You raise your hand.
Yeah, just wanted to mention Liberland, and they've been doing lots of cool stuff with blockchain, and they're basically building a country before they're a country. So,
Which project is that?
What?
Eric, yeah, which project? You said they're building a country before it's a country?
Liberland.
Oh, Liberland. Oh, okay. Do they have digital infrastructure though? Because yeah, I know they have like a geography.
They have
a dollar token and a merit token, and their last election was on chain, so there's a lot of infrastructure put together. Yeah, even ID.
Yeah, they have this digital ID residency, similarly inspired by Palau and by Estonia. That's there as well. So I mean, you can argue that they're a semi-successful network state project, right? You know, their people come from all over the network, and then they also have crowdfunded territory as well.
Yeah, this is actually pretty interesting. So I'd like to share with you guys another thing I'm working on. That's why I was asking about open source and whoever else is interested. So the idea is that I would love help actually on this, but the idea is actually very simple. I'm trying to build an open source project for network state founders, right? So if, for example, someone is a recognized founder, he wants to create the infrastructure. What I want to do is create a nice, open source repository on GitHub where a person could basically have all the infrastructure, again, open source for economics, ID management, everything like that. So, people could become a citizen, they could, join with Web3, they could join with whatever social, logins they want to in the beginning. But the idea is to provide a toolbox already set up for network state founders, right? And so if you go, for example, this state dashboard, obviously I got inspired by Balaji's, concept inside of the book. But yeah, basically, everyone who wants to fork this, will have their population, their annual income, the square meters, the major cities themselves, the network distribution. But of course, you have a dedicated pages specifically for example, like your mission or, constitution or, the institutions that you want to have. And so the idea is to have an infrastructure template for a network state founder, wherever they are in the world, and to have already that set up, right? So this is basically the idea, and this is like a project that I recently that for network state founders, that would be awesome.
Very cool, man. Can you share the link? Are you down to put that in the Discord? You can put it here in this chat or the Discord or whatever, but I want to circulate that and look at it myself. It's certainly like, that's a conclusion a lot of people are going to come to, right? Is like, you need something like this, what's going to be the tool? And in the beginning, it'll probably be like a lot of things like experiments, right? So I love that you're taking a stab at it. I want to learn more.
For
Matt,
sure.
that
So
kind of really aligns with your vision with TNS Connect, right? With the what you're trying to do with you and Joe with TNS Connect in terms of aligning and connecting everyone.
You're saying like how does it align? Go ahead, Lorenzo.
No, I was just saying, right now it's a Vercel link. Like I'm just building out the it's not really fully baked, but I could share it and like we could work on it. Yeah, you could see it. I mean, it's not fully ready yet, but for sure. I mean, I don't mind sharing this. I want more eyes on it. That's the best way to get started. So for sure.
Yeah, no harm in just having a look. So your question, Jim, is how well does that like jive with what we're doing?
Yeah, it feels like a lot of synergies with what you and Joe are
doing.
doing.
Yeah. So we're doing, Lorenzo, like we don't have any infrastructure really yet. That's the thing. We're like community first, education first.
Yeah.
we would love to do infra. We just don't have the manpower, basically. But yeah, I mean, from the perspective of providing services to network states, like that would be amazing, you know, this kind of thing. And just to help people get them off the ground, I mean, is a cool thing. So for sure, I'm interested in how it could be part of what we're doing as well. Because what we want to do is like, basically what happens is like, just to go into a little bit more about Network State Connect, since Jim brought it up, is like, we want to be an on-ramp for people into the network state ecosystem. We think there's just a lot of people who are like, Balaji is dope. I heard this really good interview. I read the book, whatever. Like, I want to do that. But like, if you actually think about what that first step is, one, it's not easy at all. And two, if you are to take one of those steps, it's usually like overly, what I would say, like overly prescriptive. Like, I'm going to join Praxis. Okay, that's narrow. You know, I'm going to join Cabin. I'm going to, you know, what are you going to do? Like, so it's just like to take a step in community is to take a commitment with something that you don't really even know about, right? Like, and so there's a really, I think there's a very poor on-ramping for the system is my judgment. And so the idea of Network State Connect is like, come hang out in a community of people who are all exploring these things, gaining skills, you know, and what we're hoping to do is attract, because we have friends at pretty much all the major network states. And it's kind of like, if we can get them to come in and start to either provide some kind of courses, community, things like this, lectures, just come in and start to throw some vibes in, then we can take those people who are hanging around talking and learning stuff like this, and we can draw them into existing network states. That's what we're hoping, you know, because it's like, I don't know, like Lorenzo, do you know Cabin?
No.
So they're like a network society. They're like one of these more like Ethereum community focused network society type things. I don't know if you know, do you know about the like fracture between network states and network societies or any of this stuff? Like, there's like this essay online from this real progressive dude who's just like, we need network societies, not network states, because Balaji is mean and his politics are bad or whatever. And so it's like a fork movement. And that's me. I'm making fun of it, but like basically, but like you have all these people who want to join movements that are like community focused movements, and like that's really cool. Actually, totally legit. Like community focused movements are good, and so it's like if you can get somebody to come in and talk about, hey, we're not trying to build, you know, a new banking system and like all this crazy infrastructure, like in new institutions. Because if you're a network stater, you're focused on institutions at some level. Like you're interested in institutions. You're thinking at that very high level. A lot of people are just thinking in the neighborly level. Like, I just want to have a better way to associate with people, have a better network, you know, and maybe even if I travel. And so bring those communities in, those community leaders, and then if that's more somebody's vibe, or, you know, they can join. So that's the idea behind Network State Connect, is like bring all these people together so people can start to make choices. What we haven't thought too much about, what we're interested in though, is helping people start network states. Like if you're into it and you just want to like, you learn a bunch and you're inspired, then it's like, okay, go, you know, and pull people from here too, because we don't want people to be the stopping point. You don't stop at Network State Connect. You move on from Network State Connect. And so, I almost said an Elon. I got to be careful with my arm there. And so, anyway, yeah, that's your little synopsis.
No, it's great. I mean, like, yeah, I think Jim said it correctly. Like, it's very aligned. You know, like, I definitely see that it's a nice platform, you know, for individuals. I mean, whoever I'm speaking to this about, they're always saying like, what the hell do you mean? Like, is this actually possible? Like networks, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like when Balaji's mentioned it, like, oh, it's obvious that if you created social communities with Facebook and Reddit and everything online, and if you created startups and economies online, and if you created cryptocurrencies online, then it would make sense. Naturally, the progression would be governments online, but it seems like people still are not able to wrap their heads around, like, what does that mean? Like an actual government, you know what I mean?
But it's not about them wrapping their heads around it, right? Because like, who wraps their head around Bitcoin? Almost nobody. Almost nobody wraps their head around it. But they just use it, and then they trust it, because so many people's minds, their system of logic is based on intermediaries, you know, like trusted intermediaries, right? Social proof, right? That's how people decide how something works. And so it's like, yeah, that will be the same with network states. So that's why we do this in community. You know what I mean? Because like that's when you start to kind of grok, like, oh, this is how we could do things together, you know? But I agree, like, dude, it's so hard. Yeah.
That's a good point. Can I just build on that? That's a really good point. That's a raised interesting point because right now we're seeing in the mainstream media, biology, network